You're listening to Carly Gallagher, naturopath and hormone specialist. This is Help My Hormones, helping you to address hormone dysfunction naturally. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Help My Hormones. I'm joined by the fabulous Rachael White. Rachael White is a spiritual entrepreneur, an author, a wellness teacher, a speaker, a spiritual coach, angel intuitive therapist, positive psychology practitioner, and a qualified aromatherapist and natural perfumerist. Rachael has taken the woo out of woo-woo. She is grounded and a spiritual entrepreneur and a positive powerhouse for spiritual transformation and enlightenment in business and also in life. She has over 26 years of experience in business and spiritual well-being. Rachael is on a mission to get us all to trust the power of intuition and harness positivity, aromatics, and energy to raise vibration and consciousness to bring spiritual muscle to complete the mind, body, and spiritual wellness trilogy. That is a mouthful. I hope I got it all right, Rachael.
You did very well, Carly.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to share a little bit about how I met you. And I've been blessed to have met you for a few years now through school. And your beautiful range of essences that has really brought a lot of joy to my life. And it all started by reading your book. Do you want to tell people a little bit about your products and your book and how that really came about?
Sure. So I definitely had a moment in time where I think a lot of people have either a mental or a physical illness that really impacted my family. And I navigated the health system for many, many, many years with no resolve. And it was through that experience that I then really looked inward. And I'd always been quite spiritual, but I was completely in the closet. It wasn't something, like a lot of people, that I really wanted to talk about. I didn't really know a lot about what to talk about, but it was something that I had always myself gone and visited with clairvoyance, and I had a real strong connection to God, but God not in a religious sense, even though I was raised a Catholic. But there was, there's that period, I think, when you're going through some sort of crisis, whether it's a physical crisis or a healing crisis, mental health issue, where you really just are pounding the pavement trying to find answers to your to what's going on. And both my husband was diagnosed with clinical depression, and my son had severe eczema. So there was, a moment in time where I had been doing a lot of meditation. I'd really turned inward, and I was really calling in my spirituality to really come forward and to support me. And I had an experience where both my husband and I had an experience where angels came to me. My grandmother, my deceased grandmother, came to me in spirit, and and the angels. And it was sort of over a 2-year period that the angels came to me and guided me on how to connect spiritually and energetically with divine guidance and spiritual guidance, and to use that guidance to try and find a way to support my husband and my family's healing, to be guided on how to do that. So it was kind of a two-pronged thing. Not only was a spiritual awakening for me and my family, but it also gave me the lessons, and they taught me how to access this part of all of what we all have, which is our energy and our spirit and our soul. And then I went on. I then went on to study post. I was actually working in mental health for some time, in community mental health, and studying. I did some psychology, and then I did started my Masters of Wellness and was doing positive psychology. So I was very much moving into that space, and I then decided to open a practice in Sydney and begin as a spiritual practitioner. And it was at that point that I really could see in with people, how energy would get stored in their body, and I would, all the things that the angels had taught me in the context of my own healing, I was then able to bring that across and help other people in practice. So, day after day after day. And then there was a point during that, and I'd always loved aromatherapy and essential oils. I'd always used them. And it was kind of at that point in my practice where I could see the energy and I really wanted to move it. And the angels sort of guided me to create this range which represented them. And I channeled each of the archangels 15 fragrances, scents, and each of those fragrances, you kind of embody the angelic energy, and the spiritual healing that comes with that, the emotional healing, and then I wrote a book about it. So that's kind of, and then I created the range. I used the range in my practice. I used it on people. I channeled sort of like the first 5 angels, and I would prescribe it to people, and I would monitor like how it was working for them, and they would come back. And then, after doing that for sort of half the angels, then my clients were asking for more, and the angels came through, and I channeled the rest of the range. So I have 15 fragrances, which are actually each of the angels' aromas. And I then have gone on to study aromatherapy and also natural perfumery. I studied that initially a couple of years ago. So I really believe that aromatherapy and perfume is the platform that aligns beautifully with spiritual healing. And, when we're talking about holistic healing, there is a strong focus on mental and physical, but the spiritual aspect, the energetic aspect of healing is something that does need a little bit more focus, and not only energy, but also the connection to higher consciousness energy. So spiritually based types of energy, like there are radio frequencies, and some of those are vibrations, some of those are really high. And with aromatics, you can access the really high vibrations, and also spirit for support.
And I know you're a fellow
I hope that sums it up for you.
No, you did. It's beautiful. I love that explanation, really, about the benefit that aromatherapy can work on a different part of the body. As a naturopath and a herbalist, we work a lot with the physical body, but aromatherapy is working on an emotional body, a mental body, a spiritual body. It's, the layers of our well-being and our soul is so multidimensional, and sometimes we just get stuck in one mode. And that's why I love aromatherapy, and in particular your range, because your range really started a journey of healing for myself. And I think the first one I used was positivity. And
Oh, yeah.
I love that, not only for its amazing health benefits or mental benefits that I achieved through it, but it smells so bloody good. And I was like, well, this is my perfume now, and I don't wear any other scent other than your range. So positivity was the first one, and I can't speak highly enough about Archangel Michael. He is one that is just a staple, really, and in my hormonal health. Tell me a little bit about some of your essences and where you have found them beneficial for women, in particular with a range of hormonal symptoms that we all seem to be facing as we move closer to menopause.
Yeah, I think Archangel Michael, which is a combination of the bergamot and the lavender and the rose. A lot of women experience insomnia, and what is really helpful with that is actually the combination of all 3 of those will really work quite deep into the body, and just really support you to calm as well. And when you diffuse those essential oils while you sleep, so I often would, one of my clients, she was struggling with, or many actually, many clients, and especially if they've got a lot on their mind, and then if they're transitioning into a hormonal period, but diffusing that essential oil, putting it on in the room in an ultrasonic diffuser before you go to before you actually go to bed, and then let it kind of really with the light off. So I've got a diffuser where you can put the light off, and then you let that diffuse right next to your head. Everybody that I recommend that to, they end up falling asleep.
Wow.
It's
That's
life changing.
that's really handy, that one. Is that Michael?
Yeah, that's Archangel Michael. So that is the other one is Peace also, which is number 10. That's Archangel Haniel. And that one is specifically for insomnia. But I find that often insomnia, because with hormones there can be anxiety and depression, there can be that heightened. So it works on that level to really calm that emotional response. And if people are very sensitive to energy as well, and their body is going through changes, and they can feel quite anxious. And so that's why I often prescribe number 1, and then number 10, that you can put both of them in there, and but diffusing them while you sleep is really important.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I found that reading your book also really helped to put in some good health hygiene practice as well around connecting with yourself, connecting with source, connecting with your guides, and some really handy tips around shielding and protecting yourself. And I found them really beneficial, not only for myself and my family, so I've taught my daughter some of your rituals as well, but also for some patients of mine who have very significant emotional challenges, especially anxiety and depression, which I think is on the rise here with the current climate, with the pandemic. You're seeing a lot more of these mental health conditions pop up. The ability to put a daily practice in there. Your book is step by step. It's not necessarily a book. It's almost like the front of it is like a amazing story and journey that you went through, and the back of it is like a step-by-step guide on how to implement some of these amazing practices that we've forgotten or haven't been handed down. And so tell me a little bit about how you kind of came to pulling all that together for the world to kind of read.
Well, the reason why these are ancient practices, because in ancient times, back Babylonian and the Sumerian times, way back even before then, when people were unwell, they used aromatics to shift that, especially if they didn't feel well, if emotionally they didn't feel well. Before they even had the word emotional, it was aromatics that was used. But they also had a very strong belief in that your ill health was, as a result of being energetically compromised. And so I adopt that exact same school of thought. So I believe that if you're feeling anxiety and depression, that it is first and foremost a spiritual issue, and that if you can get to that, and then it can manifest and then really start to play out physically, because the burden of that emotional burden that you're holding on to can then result in very strong physical symptoms as well. But the fact of the matter is, and I think that this is why we experience a lot of anxiety, is because we don't fully understand, and in a lot of ways, and mostly what's happened historically, is that we were shamed around being spiritual. Spiritual practices were banned unless you were a practicing Christian. Any of these spiritual practices that were handed down were shamed by the churches. In fact, the Catholic Church wouldn't even let you use perfume, because they banned all perfume. All religious practices banned the use of perfume.
Wow.
And this is really interesting because, you know, you will not find a Buddhist monk or a Chinese monk who will not sit down before they practice any kind of energetic practice. They will always use incense. They will always use, because aroma is the thing that not only protects and shields and supports our energy to shift us into a high vibration, but it allows the connection to higher consciousness to happen. So what I'm finding is that people are really starting to honor their spirituality and their energetic selves. And the first and the best way to do that is through creating a spiritual protection ritual, like what you mentioned in my book. And, you know, I remember when I first started working with the angels, and they used to say to me, you need to protect your energy. And they gave me that ritual to practice and to do. And I wouldn't do it. Like, I would do it maybe once a week. And, you know, and I was like, seriously, I don't have time. Like, I had 2 little kids. I could barely find time to go to the toilet, let alone sit up in bed and meditate. Like, if they would wake in and like be in my bed and it was on and it was happening, I was like, I don't have time for this, right? So then they said, do it while you're brushing your teeth, but whatever you do. So I got to this point, and I'm always like many people probably where people have always said, oh, you're so sensitive. You're sensitive about everything. You feel everything. And I am that person, and I'm proud of it. So this is why the angels were saying, seriously, you need to shield your energy every day. It's something that you need to do. You cannot not do it. You need to do it in the morning before you start the day and before you go to bed. And I remember having this really difficult week where energetically I was just spent and I was all over the place. I was emotional. I was anxious. I just was not myself. And I got very clearly in the meditation, shield. So I committed to the practice of shielding, and it's life-changing. And the thing is, it's so simple, it's so transformational that it's the one thing that usually gets thrown out the window first of all. Like, you just, you know, people just can't commit to it. They just find it really hard to commit to on top of everything else. And I know that that's really difficult, but I would say to people, you know, shielding your energy, you have physical shields in place. You wear clothing, you have fences, doors, car seat belts. You create emotional boundaries with people, but people are not doing anything to shield their energy. And we know you can spend 5 minutes with someone who's a real complainer, and you can walk away from that person. You think, oh my God, I feel like I've got the weight of the world on my shoulder. There is an energetic transfer. And so I don't think that people fully understand how that energetic transfer, that energy is all around us wherever we go. And so when we experience anxiety, it is that we're picking up on quite a lot of negative energy. And probably it's a way of your energetic body saying it's too much to deal with. Like,
Yeah.
you cannot process this. So you need to shield.
Yeah. And I love in your book the cutting cords ritual as well, which
Oh, yeah.
you might, you know, I see that in patients who, you know, they're struggling with their own challenges, but they're just pulling in energy from other people. Could be their children or their husband or a loved one or a work colleague, and they just keep getting knocked down and knocked down. And when you dig down into it, you know, it's this cord that can, you know, that we've formed with connections with people, and
Yeah.
that is an important thing also to be able to cut off. It's not about, you know, cutting them off and out of your life, or out of the situation. It's more around trying to protect yourself so that you're not sucking all of their energy in that's doing, you know, detriment to your own health. So I found that one, probably the shielding and the cutting the cord, probably 2 ones that I use quite a lot. But the other 2 would be the full moon ritual and the new
Yes.
moon ritual. Can you tell us a little bit about those 2 in particular, given we've just went through a new moon, and
Yes.
people like yourself and myself really have changes occurring around those times that we might think, oh, you know, maybe it's the new moon, and it probably is.
Yes. Well, it's interesting, especially women, because, the energy of the moon is definitely female. And, having worked many years in community mental health, I could see how, and any person that works in the health system will tell you that when, especially in mental health, when the hospitals usually fill up, accident and emergency, and there's usually more incidences of psychosis, and there is something that goes on. And when I had my practice in Sydney, I would, the week before leading up into a full moon, so many people would experience a real emotional shift in energy. And I first came to realize the moon because when I was in my 20s, and I get very energetically charged, and I find it's a really amazing time for creativity, and I may not even sleep. Like, it's an amazing supercharge for me where I just get charged up, and I think a lot of people experience that as well. So and creatively, but also emotionally. So usually on a full moon, because the moon is moving into its full bounty, it usually, what happens is, because it impacts us, there is the issue of water, like we're mostly made of water, and so it affects us that way. But it's more to do with the energetics of it, because you have the moon and her energy going into this full bloom, and we find that she wants to take a lot of our emotional issues. So that week leading up into when the full moon is going to arrive, my practice would usually be filled with people where issues that they have always had that are bubbling under the surface, that maybe that difficult conversation that they didn't want to have, or their struggles in their relationship, or maybe there's financial issues, whatever it is, the moon will not allow it to stay under and underneath and under the surface. And if you're shielding your energy and you've got a spiritual practice, what happens is, once you start shielding and protecting, you start to build a very strong connection to that kind of energy. So your healings around the moon are heightened even more, and you become much more sensitive, but sensitive and strong. That's what I find. So the full moon affords you that opportunity to really look at the emotional issues in the context of maybe relationships or work life or whatever it is, and really notice what's coming up for you. And then when the full moon arrives, you can surrender that lesson and that learning and that emotional response to the moon and say, right, I got the memo, thanks very much, and I'm passing it over to you. And there's a ritual that I have documented in my book where you can then relinquish that, and it's like I suppose cutting the cords. You give it back to the moon and say, I'm good, I'm ready to hand that over and heal and deal with it. So then what happens on the new moon, which is at the other end of the full moon, so it goes full cycle, and we begin on the new moon. And the new moon, since antiquity, has always been about creating new beginnings. So this is when we would plant crops, we would sow seeds, we would invest in planting the things that we want to manifest, the things that we want to create and to grow, and then we would pick them on the full moon. So, and pull them out and let go of what we didn't want. So this idea of being able to then harness the moon and to set strong intention, so you release anything that's not working with you under a full moon, so that you can bed down the things that you really deeply desire on the new moon. And so those rituals are both in my book. You work very closely with the angels. Archangel Ariel is the archangel of manifestation. Archangel Michael is very much a part of those rituals, because he gets you to clear the energy in your space to create a really strong, positive foundation for, manifesting and releasing and healing. So those rituals, and the angels showed me those rituals again during that period of healing for me and my family, because they wanted to, every time I could feel things coming up, and then that process of then letting them go, and then what are you focusing on now, that cyclical, so that you never feel stuck, so you feel like you're constantly in a process of reflection and healing and manifesting, reflection, healing and manifesting. That process, I feel like we're all in that, But that week before a full moon, guaranteed people just go crazy, like things that they don't want to look at, like things that frustrate them, so that people get frustrated, they get angry, they get agitated. They're like, it's like the full moon says, okay, I'm lifting the lid on this baby and you're going to have a good look at it.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And it's quite confronting, and people are emotionally, and it doesn't happen with every full moon, but depending on where you are or what's going on in your life, some of those healings with the full moon are really full on.
Yeah, I think we all can do with a little bit of letting go at times. Uh, no one really wants to carry their SHIT on their back all through their
Exactly.
life. You know, I think it's really healthy for us to go through a cleaning process, just like you would tidy up the house and make sure it's clean, and you're not going to be, you know, keeping old newspapers just piling up. You know, it's healthy for us to make sure that we keep a spiritually clean place as well, and that will help clear away some of the old anxieties and health burdens, so that you can recreate new things. And that those processes that you know, the rituals that you go through in those the book that you have is probably one of the, you know, was one of the best parts of getting to the end of your book and really embedding those processes. What would you say is your like top 3-5 things that you would say for someone who's going through hormonal issues? Mostly, you know, the ones that pop up would be people who are struggling with their energy, struggling with balancing their moods, whether it be anxiety and depression, and feeling a little bit like stuck in the grind of going over it every month. What would you say to some of those women?
The first thing I would say is that I think aromatics, and certainly aromatherapy, are totally underestimated with how they can be leveraged for your mental health. The process of using, or the inhalation of, an essential oil. So the essential oils that you find in good organic and wildcrafted, and by wildcrafted I mean that they the plant material has been grown in the wild, and there hasn't been any exposure to pesticides, and then it's been harvested. So it's not necessarily certified as organic. It hasn't gone through a process, but you know, you might find an Italian farmer who's been growing bergamot, you know, for thousands of years in his family. He's never going to get a certification, but it's classified as wildcrafted. There's never been a pesticide within kilometers of his farm. So I believe in using high quality essential oils, which is the extraction of the aroma from barks and the flowers and resins. And these oils, when they are extracted a certain way, so usually steam distilled, but even that, again, the process of doing that, the process of gently and softly extracting the aromatics in a way that hold all of the chemical composition, which work very very well with your body, both medicinally but also aromatically, is really, really important. And you can smell the difference, and you can feel the difference. You can feel the difference. So it's very important that you work with the best natural products that you can find, because we're talking about using aroma that, when you inhale it, goes into the lungs and into the brain. And it goes very quickly into the brain because it crosses the blood brain. And this is the thing with essential oils. The essential oil molecules in aromatherapy, in the aroma, are so tiny that they cross the blood-brain barrier into the limbic brain, into the hypothalamus, everywhere where you process your hormones and your emotions. So what can happen is, if you are experiencing any sort of anxiety or depression and you inhale an aromatic, and I also agree, this is why I think the angelic aromas are a really great place to start, because, well, first of all, I only use the very best, and will only ever use the very best. But there is single blend oils don't have, it's like anything on its own, it's great. Together, it's a powerhouse. It's the synergetic, it's called the synergetic nature of aromatics. So when there is synergy, It's like human beings. When there's chemistry, then they work a whole lot better. The inhalation, I often say to people, because, you know, when people are sad, when they're depressed, or when they're anxious, and someone says, why can't you just be happy? Like, why can't you just, you know, why can't you just be happy? And I think, oh my God, if I had $1 for every time, I mean, for any person that's ever experienced anxiety, a panic attack, or depression, that is just like, you have got to be kidding me. If I could just flick the switch and not be that, then do you not think that I would?
Yeah.
This is the beauty of aromatherapy, because, and it's been used since ancient times, because when you smell, you register smell and aroma before anything else. And you don't have to try and think yourself into a positive mindset. It shifts you already aromatically. So all you have to do is think, I don't feel great. The only thing you have to think is, I'm going to smell my oil. And you smell and smell, and you keep smelling it and inhaling it, and you will literally feel yourself shift, because it will work on that emotion in your brain. So there is a chemical reaction. There is also an energetic reaction, because the vibration of plant matter, essential oils, holds the highest vibration of anything in nature. So just by sniffing it, it lifts you into that high vibration naturally. So
Yeah,
that's probably
it's important, I think.
Yeah, because, and you know, the angels, this is a really, because the go-to for a lot of people is synthetic drugs, either to, you know, to create serotonin and to create that, and it's false. It's premised on a false happiness, you know, or a false. This really, it's also creating a neurological pathway where you're using something of a positive nature, so it's rewiring you as well.
Yeah. That high vibration is really important, and that's why I love being a herbalist, because you know, natural herbal tinctures, you know, if I had to choose, I would always go with a liquid tincture because of the high vibration. I just find that even though the same dose, a tablet versus a tincture, will just have such different outcomes, and the speed of the outcome because of the high vibration. And aromatherapy and flower essences are all part of that high vibration therapeutic activity that you know, you can carry these things around with you in your bag. You know, you can put your essential oil blend, you know, in your purse, and you can't choose sometimes when a panic attack's going to come. It just is going to come. And just like you might have rescue remedy in your handbag, you should always have your aromatherapy rescue as well in your handbag, for that very reason, as you said.
To smell your way out of an emotional trigger.
Yeah. To smell your way out. I love that.
Yeah, to smell your way out it's going to be the quickest thing to work, because even if you take a herbal tincture, the herbal tinctures are great for creating an environment for the essential oils and for the aromatherapy, but they still have to navigate all of the organs and all of the systems in the body. Whereas you're going to get an instant hit with an essential oil that you sniff, because it, like I said, it goes straight across the brain into the blood, into and works, you know. And so you just keep sniffing and sniffing and sniffing, and you will feel the shift. The panic will go.
It's a fast action.
Yes.
Yeah, like a nerve action versus a hormone. You know, the nervous system is going to react much quicker than the hormonal pathways.
Yes.
What do you think? And we're kind of delving really into the spiritual aspect of it. People who have tried aromatherapy, have tried natural medicine, tried, you know, medications, synthetic medications, kinesiologists, you know, all those things, and they still are faced with crippling anxiety or panic attacks. You know, from your vast knowledge and also your connection really with your spirit guides and the angels, you know, is there also another layer that people might need to consider in terms of maybe attachments or energies that are hanging on that uh, possibly need to be, helped to be removed. A lot of people don't probably know that side of things, or are a little bit scared to consider it.
Yeah. I think that probably the first thing, if you're not a purveyor of spiritual remedies, then I always, and you're newly trying to explore something, the first thing that I would suggest that you do is that you have a practice of that spiritual protection, like I told you, and that you're making a commitment to do that before you start the day and before you end the day. And then using, I would say, working with Archangel Michael, because his blend is designed for anybody experiencing anxiety and depression. So just keeping it really simple, because that way you can really start to notice the difference that it's making in your life. So they're really quite simple practices to introduce, and shielding yourself morning and night, and then the inhalation, and doing that for kind of 3 months to 2 months, 2 months to 3 months, you will see a major shift happen. And that's what I say. Like if you're newly on that path, or you're really looking for something, just to keep it simple and start with those two things. Because like I said at the beginning, it's energetically, you don't realize how, when your energy is compromised, how that can affect your entire well-being. So, and then going on from there, if there are you then what happens is that you get to kind of this foundation of foundation of kind of spiritual wellness and spiritual well-being, where you're much, the anxiety may not be as bad, and then there's an opportunity to look at energetically maybe what else is going on with you. It can be past life therapy, where there are emotional issues that have come through from previous lifetimes, which is another area that I look at, as well as physical ailments. And all of those things can be looked at in the context of reincarnation and past life. And it can be that maybe your whole energetic construct, because it has been so depleted, has maybe picked up the energies of other people around you, and so that you might need an energetic clearing, just to give yourself a really good clearing of the whole energetic body. But I think first and foremost is putting good spiritual practice in place, and to observe how having that spiritual practice and having that aromatic, pairing that together, how that already starts to make a big difference. That's what, in my experience, that's what I prescribe to people. And it's, they cannot believe how simple it is and how it just completely changes everything. We sometimes get caught up in these complex approaches to things, and I don't think, it's not meant to be like that. Spirituality is meant to be accessible and really easy. And that's usually where I would start if there is a debilitating anxiety.
Yeah, I think that's an important point that you have made, which is, setting the foundation. If you set the foundation, you become strong spiritually, and
Yeah.
then you can handle everything that comes after that, and you're better protective. You've put a preventative measure in place to, mitigate you going back to, the greatest anxiety or panic attack, or falling back into that health condition. So it's a little bit like, you know, just eating healthy or doing a juice fast might make you feel good initially, but if you go back to eating crap after that, then you're probably not going to feel good again. So
Yeah.
I like that. It's like, keep it simple, keep your daily practice in place, like brushing your teeth. You have a spiritual hygiene also that you use,
Exactly.
and you can build upon that based on what's left.
Yes.
Where
I
can
think
people?
if you're navigating anxiety, think about anxiety, it's really fear on steroids. And when you are in a fear-based thought construct, you really can't have any clarity about how you feel or what you're feeling. You're in a very reactionary and a very low place. Like you just are trying to, get back to some equilibrium. So yes, creating that foundation of peace and spiritual practice, like you say, and having that, just building that into your entire well-being. You've got your physical exercise, you've got your mental exercises, and then you've got your spiritual exercises, and just starting off with that, I think is a good place to start. Otherwise it's too big. You just think, oh my God, I've got a journal and I've got to do this and I've got to do, and people just go, I don't have enough hours in the morning to do all this stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it
So
can get quite confusing also about, where to start. Where can people start? Where can people find more about you? Get hold of your books, your aromatherapy, archangel blends, maybe even see you for some therapy. Tell us
yeah.
where people can find you.
So I am, like everyone, I think at the moment, I'm working online. So I coach people. I can do it by the hour. People can buy a package with me. They can have kind of an exploratory session with me, which is no obligation. We might find out what we need to find out in that first session. You may not need to go on having any more. But and they can do that through my website. They can just contact me, send me an email, and then we just set up an appointment and we go from there. And on my website, which is Soul Centered, which is SOUL, and then the word scent, SCENTED, soulcentered.com. You can buy all of my perfumes. You can buy all of the essences on there, all of the Archangel aromatherapy. You have the smaller aromatherapy archangels, and each of the archangels deals with different areas, depending on, Archangel Michael is the angel of spiritual protection and anxiety and depression, and he also helps with clearing energy. And then Archangel Raphael, he's the healing angel, so he would help anybody who's trying to heal overall or connect with bring in that kind of healing energy from if they've got a physical ailment or an emotional issue, or so they might spend some time. You might work with a number of angels, so each angel has a number of products in their aroma that you can use. The smaller ones are like a pure concentrated essential oil, so you can put that in your diffuser and in your bath, and you can carry it around with you in your purse to inhale if you want to shift. You can get the body oils, which are the smaller body oils, which come in small size. There's a roll-on as well that I have in that range, or a bigger sort of 200 ml. And then there's also actual eau de perfume if people want to start moving across and using stronger fragrance, natural fragrance in a perfume. Some of my clients said to me that they want to use it as an actual perfume as well as the body oils.
Yeah.
And so all of that's available on my website, so you can book in, have a consult with me, and we can go from there.
And of course, I'll have all of that information linked in the post show notes down below. So make sure you head out and check out Rachael's website and her book, which you can also purchase from your shop, of course.
Yeah.
It is almost like a Bible for spiritual healing. I am Soul Champion, there it is. And it may end up like my book, which has got tags and post-it notes and things all written in it, because it ends up being literally like a book you pick up every day and you flick through it. And it has a handy table in there too for emotions, and then what oils or angels would be associated with that, which I found really, it's like a glossary, which is fantastic because people can flick through and they can say, okay, I'm feeling,
lacking in self-esteem or
yes.
resentful. Yes.
Yes, and especially great for kids, I've found, especially my daughter going through the hormonal change, 10-year-old. It's always a challenge. And I have actually found it's your protocols and your angels, rituals and angel therapy has probably been the most profound for her. So in children, it's really fast acting because they're so much more connected than we are. We've kind of lost it as we got older, but kids are still holding on to that.
Yeah, well, they are still fairly newly on the planet, and their pineal gland, their pituitary gland, all of the aspects where they channel spiritual connection and divine energy that comes into the brain has not been switched off, because a lot of our spirituality, and this is based on, like I said, in ancient times, all of these practices and this connection to spirituality was really shamed and driven underground because it was not acceptable. Once the Christianity became the primary religion across the world, if you practice anything that was outside of Christianity, you were killed for it.
Yeah.
So we all have this,
Yeah.
we were, and so, and the thing was that most of the people that practiced all of this kind of ancient herbalism and medicinal vibrational medicine was women. It was
Yeah.
the women that they were, and they were
Richard.
priests, and they were, yes, and they were very much connected. They were the wise herbalists in the villages and in the churches, and they were the ones. But then once that main religion sort of kicked in, women were killed. You weren't even allowed to use perfume, and you weren't even allowed, if they saw you meeting and drinking tea together, because herbs, you were killed.
Shocking.
So
Thank God
yeah,
we don't live in that world right now.
no, but we still feel this sense of shame around using alternative treatments, and we get really shamed out of using it,
Yeah.
and which is a real bugbear for me, because I think that we're denying ourselves the greatest healer of all, which is Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And it completely disempowered our own healing. So the use of herbalism, the use of aromatics and all of that, and I really commend you, Carly, because I just love the fact that you're a natural doctor in this area, because you've always been a real champion of the natural way of doing things, and drawing on Mother Nature's um, healing. And you've always championed the cause for that, and it liberates women's well-being, which is, and it's so hard to be a natural doctor in these times. So
Yeah.
I really commend you. Just keep on going.
Yeah, we have to stick together, I think.
You.
And, I think in this current climate, there's a lot of awakening happening, which is really exciting and really positive. It's the bringing back of the feminine energy. You can feel it building. And I think that's unsettling to a lot of our energetic fields. And probably that's why there's a lot more emotional instability occurring. But, a lot of us intuitively are saying, I don't want to be controlled anymore. I don't want to be told that, you have to take this medication, or I'm not helping you, or, I'm not going to look there, and you're dismissed with some of your health concerns. And I think that's, really disempowering to a lot of women and their health. And I really focus a lot on trying to advocate women take control back. Control
Yes.
your own destiny. You have the power to heal yourself. You're not, Rachel's not going to heal you. I'm not going to heal you. We're just giving you the tools to go and, connect back to your own intuitive healing capabilities that has been lost and dismissed and downtrodden for centuries and
Shamed.
centuries.
Shamed. Like it's shame. Like we've been shamed for
Yeah.
this.
And to be told by certain health professionals that it's normal to have depression or anxiety, or that's just life, put up with it, that is dismissing people's rights to live a happy and healthy life. And we have to take back control, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this video so people can have another package to put into their toolkit around their spiritual and energetic healing. And I thank you so much for joining us today. And there'll be a few people, I think, knocking on your door, maybe not your door, but on your email.
On my email. The door is wide open, and I definitely think that this is a profound time for exploring your well-being and the opportunity to really take your wellness to a whole other level. So I'm just so grateful to be able to share everything that I'm doing with you today. It's just great. Thanks for
That's
having me.
great. And we've got the time. People have the time now because they're at home to do some of this spiritual practice. So take the time, ladies, to read Rachel's book and grab a couple of her oils, that essential oils from the angels that really resonate with you. It's always going to be different. There's 15 there. You might like them all, but there's definitely going to be a handful of them that you'll have as your staple toolkit. And thanks again, Rachel, and I look forward to touching base with you face to face whenever we can
connect physically.
And we say namaste.
Namaste.